We use the print function to display data in the console. We use the input function to access data from users. Sometimes, though, we want to be able to read and store information that is located in files outside of our programs. Being able to read from and write to files is a powerful programming technique called File I/O, which is short for File Input and Output. We can think about reading data from a file into your program like sound input when a singer sings into a microphone. Writing data to a file is like sound output when you listen to music on a set of speakers. Let's take a look at how we can read files in Python. What if you wanted to create an app that tells the user information about many different programming languages? Instead of creating each of the hundreds of programming languages as a variable or a list in your code, you might go online and find a text file that contains many of the different languages that exist. This is a common task in data science. We often have lots of information stored in data sets outside of our code that we want to use within the code. To read in a list of programming languages, we can follow this set of steps in Python. Step 1. We create a variable to store the name of the file. That way, it's easy to access later. If the file is in the same directory as your Python file, we can just use the file name like this. That's how we'll be accessing files in the online code editor. If you're in a large project with files in different directories, you'd have to use the relative or full path to access the file. We don't have to worry about that for now, but it'll be important when your projects grow in size. Step 2 is to open the file using yet another one of Python's neat built-in functions called open. The first parameter of open is the file name, and the second parameter is the mode that we're using the open function in. In this case, we're reading a file, so the mode is R. You can check out the Python documentation to see the other modes and parameters of each built-in function. The open function gives us an object to represent the open file, which we'll store in a variable called inFile. So at this point, we have everything we need to start using our file data in Python. The file object stored in inFile has methods that we can use to access different parts of the file. And we can use these methods in the same way that we use the methods for lists. We can read the entire file as a string using the read method. We can read one line of the file as a string using the readLine method. Or we could read in every line of the file as a list of strings using the readLines method. Don't forget to close the file when you're done with it to save resources in your program. A lot of times, you'll want to read each line one by one using a for loop. So let's use the code editor to see how this works with our file of programming languages. We can see here that we have our languages.txt, which is a text file with all of the different programming languages that we found online. In our Python file, we're storing languages.txt as the input file name, then opening it using the built-in open function and storing that object in inFile. So now we can see we can use inFile to print out the first line of the text file, or if we wanted to print out all of the languages, we can use the for loop that we just saw to print each one by one. Use the next exercise to practice reading in files and printing them out in different ways.